How can you create believable character interactions using snow? How can snow help keep food from spoiling? What can your characters do with dirty, melted snow? Do you need comedic relief in your story? How can snowmen, dishes, and skiing with a rifle be used in your story? Learn about all this and more on today's episode. Welcome to Writing Rule with Allie, the Fiction Writers Weekly inspiration station for rural life and lifestyles, from historical to post-apocalyptic, helping you bring your rural stories to life. I'm Allie, and this is episode number 94, Top 5 Fun and Versatile Uses for Snow. Stick around to the end to find out all the ways things could possibly go wrong. Now, let's get into this. Number 1. Snow sports. Sports involving snow have been around since caveman times. Skiing started as a practical way to move from one place to another and is a modern-day sport. In fact, since the 1920s, ski has been included in the Winter Olympics. Snowboarding started in the 1960s. Other sports include, but are not limited to, ice hockey, ice skating, bobsledding, and more. There is even one called the biathlon that combines skiing and rifle shooting. That sounds like something I want to try. So, what can these be used for in your story? First and most obvious is a way for your characters to meet each other. This gives reasons for interactions with other characters, builds friendships, involves love interests, and even creates enemies, especially if there's a baseball bat and ice skates involved. This creates challenges and obstacles for your characters to overcome. It can also make teamwork necessary. If an injury happens, your character can have a nice hero moment. Now, if you're writing suspense, and I love me some suspense, this is the perfect way for your characters to escape the bad guys. Assuming your bad guys can't also ski, then this might be a race to the bottom of the mountain. And I hope the bad guys don't practice biathlon, or at least are a very bad aim. Number 2, fun time. Snow has a wealth of ways for your characters to interact, have character building moments, show their connections, and just have fun. These include, but are not limited to, making sculptures, snowball fights, making snow forts, making snow angels, building snowmen and other creatures, sledding, snow races, snow obstacle courses. While many of these are thought of as kids' activities, adults do them too. And anyone who says otherwise is likely a fuddy-duddy. At least that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Remember, these can not only be great character-building moments, but comedic relief for your stories too. Kind of like how people giggle when a pie goes in someone's face. They do the same thing when it's a snowball. Number 3, settings for stories. This is common, but has a plethora of options for backdrops. This can be as simple as flying over a snowy mountain to as intense as an ice rescue. A much-loved options for cozy Christmas romances. This is also a much-enjoyed survival setting. Just remember to do your research and keep things realistic. There is little chance that someone going skiing will bring fully trained sled dogs that will take them down the mountain when the apocalypse happens. Just as hypothermia is real in a survival situation or even a normal situation. If you'd like to learn more about hypothermia, I've got an entire episode on that. Number 4, melted for practical uses. Having lived off-grid, I can tell you that one common thing in the winter is melting snow. While most people think of water for drinking, maybe even making food, there are many uses that most people don't consider. Some of these include washing your hands. If your character doesn't have water coming out of the tap, they will want a bowl to wash their hands in. Yes, they will rinse in the same bowl before drying their hands. Now, you would think they would throw the water right out, but that depends. If they have a toilet, they will use the dirty water to flush the toilet. I have known people who give this to animals to drink, but I know that causes diarrhea, and that's not good, as it can easily lead to death in animals. Another thing that water can be used for is bathing. Whether they use it to keep their armpits and privates clean, wash their hair, or do something larger like a bath is up to you. And this makes a difference in how much snow they have to melt. It can take a long time to melt snow in that great of an amount. However, something that we did was to take a 55-gallon metal barrel and keep it close to the wood stove to melt the snow in. After a few days, you would have warm water in a barrel. I admit, hot water on demand is the one thing that I missed when there was no electricity. Think about the things that you do with water Your character might deal with water. And remember, the water has to come from somewhere if there's no running water. Number 5, cooler or freezer. The last method today is to use the great outdoors and the snow as a cooler or freezer for your character's food. This can be done in many ways. In places much colder than where I live, they make ice into shapes of chests and will place food inside to keep them cold in the winter. They place them in ice to try to keep the predators or other wild animals out of them. Some places use ice houses. Some of them are built on high stilts to keep the animals out. Personally, in the winter, if the power goes out, I will put the milk outside and let it stay cold out there. If there are predators, I might get an ice chest out or other way to block them. We don't have too many bears here, so the car works just fine for me. Ice was brought into the ice houses and early refrigerators until the invention of modern refrigeration. Online, it says that this first came out in the 1920s, but I personally know people who use ice refrigeration all the way up until the 1970s. In fact, some Amish still do today. So keep that in mind. While inventions come out, they take some time to get to everybody, especially for the poorer families. Fun fact! Nordic skating has been part of the Winter Olympics since the first Winter Olympics in 1924, held in France. One quick reminder before we get to what could possibly go wrong in your story. If you're enjoying this content and want to help others find my content, pop on over to Apple Podcasts and leave me a review. Or if you're watching on YouTube, drop me a comment and say hello or ask a question. This is the best way to help others find my content. And now, for everyone's favorite part, what could possibly go wrong? Likely to go wrong. Your character spends too long in the snow playing and gets hypothermia. Also likely to go wrong. Your character is playing hockey and falls down. Their teammate accidentally runs over their fingers with their skate, cutting off a finger. Possible to go wrong. Your character is outside too long and gets frostbite. Also possible to go wrong. Your character is playing ice hockey and skates onto thin ice. The thin ice breaks and your character falls in. This could be deadly. Unlikely to go wrong. Your character brings the yellow snow in to melt. When they later drink it, they get sick. Seriously, don't let your characters consume snow that isn't white. It never ends well. Unlikely to go wrong. Your character uses their car as a makeshift refrigerator in the winter when the power goes out. A pack of wolves smell the meat in the car and tear the car up trying to get to the meat. Improbable, but still technically in the realm of possibilities. Your character is skiing in a new area and goes the wrong way. They ski right off a cliff. This could be deadly. Improbable, but still technically in the realm of possibilities. Your character is skating away from bad guys that are chasing them. They take a risk and skate across thin ice. The thin ice holds them, but the bad guys fall through. Bad guys defeated. Thanks for listening. Until next time, happy wordsmithing!